Hello, I'm Dr. G, and today we're going to be talking about how to do a parrot beak trim. Now, usually birds do not need a beak trim, so by cutting the pointy edge, this will not necessarily prevent nasty bites. Well, some of the good reasons to do trim a bird beak are usually because it's deformed in one way or another, either following a trauma because the bird cage fell and they fractured or chipped the beak, or often it's because they got bitten by another bird. We see this often in lovebirds, sometimes following a sickness like beak and feather disease, or beak mites that we see a lot in budgerigars, liver disease, sinusitis. They even get beak tumors. Unfortunately, we still see a lot of cases of malnutrition, very rarely congenital malformations. Often the beak will wear unevenly, either because of lack of proper chewing toys or abrasive surfaces to wipe the beak. Now, beak trimming should always be done by a competent, well-equipped avian veterinarian or trained personnel, because the beak is a very vascularized structure that will bleed if improperly trimmed or trimmed too short. So if you do attempt to do a beak trim on a bird, please be gentle and go layer by layer very patiently. Now, I'll be talking about the few cases that I see regularly. This is Pavlopionis, and as you see, he's got a thickened upper bill. So he comes in a few times a year to get his beak trimmed. Now, Pavlo, when I saw him, his beak was so long it was almost going all the way down into his throat area. But with regular beak trimmings, his beak is a lot better. It was also split at the bottom. Before trimming a beak, it's very important to know what a normal beak should look like. Now, this is Myron the macaw. Myron is not so lucky as Pavlo. The beak on Myron is even more deformed. As you can see, the upper bill is deviated laterally to the right, and the lower bill has this long pointy edge on the left side. Now, Myron comes in a few times a year as well, so that we can maintain the shape of his beak to help him along to eat. His beak will never be normal, but it's much better once it's trimmed. Now, to trim the beak, I usually use a handheld Dremel, a nail clipper, and some nail files that I've cut the pointy tip off to round it off to make it safer for the birds. I like lightweight handheld Dremel tools with variable speed and with a conical grinding stone at the tip that gives me a lot of control to trim the bird beaks. Now, I usually use the speed from 2 to 4 to do most beaks. If you go higher than that, it's so fast that it can overheat the bill. And you're going to see here, as I turn the knob up, that it gets to be very, very loud. So usually a speed of 4 is good for larger birds, and if I can even stop it with my fingers without getting hurt or burnt. And a speed of 2 is good for smaller birds. I will use the flat side of the stone, and also I can stabilize my hand and use the tip for more precision. Now, this is Kasuku, the African gray, that I'll be doing a demonstration. She's got a thickened, flaky upper bill, and the bill is also longer at the point on the edges there. So this is what she'll look like once I'm done. Now, I usually start with my nail files, and I'll remove the flaky part on top, as you can see here. Now, Kasuku is not a bird that's used to being handled, but as you can see here, she's quite comfortable getting her beak trimmed. So while I'm holding her, I'm trying not to block the nostrils, not to prevent her from breathing well, especially if they're wrapped in a towel. I don't want her to stress out too much or overheat. So I start doing the sides, trying to even out the top part of the beak, one fine layer at a time. I also check with my finger the temperature of the beak to make sure it's not overheating the structures below. So I'll change the angle of my Dremel to be able to access all the sides. Kasuku is being quite good throughout the whole process. With her, it takes about 15 minutes to do her bill. if it's going to be beyond 20 minutes or so, I'll try and do it in different sessions, not to overstress the bird, and especially for them not to overheat as well. When I do very large beaks like the macaw, I'm often going to water the stone as I do it to make sure that the beak doesn't overheat, especially if I have to use a speed higher than number 4 on my Dremel. So she's starting to look pretty good, Kasuku here. We're almost done. There we go. Much better. So I shine up the beak, make sure I haven't forgotten any spots. Now Kasuku's all shined up, ready to party. So bye-bye, Kasuku. See you next time.